Hey everybody, Aaron Blaise here. It's Thursday, so that means we're on YouTube. It's great to see you. It's been a week, so we've had a really good week this past week. We went out and did a little bit of some traditional media. I went out and did some gouache painting earlier in the week, and Dustin recorded all that for me, and so we're going to be putting that up as a video giving you a little gouache lesson. That'll be coming up later in the day. But today, for the live stream, for those of you that were with me over on Facebook on Tuesday, you'll remember that I started doing some animation. And I was doing what's called straight ahead animation, meaning I'm just kind of plowing through and just doing drawing after drawing to get the animation, to get the acting and the action. Well, I'm going to continue with that today. What I'm doing is I'm working on a little personality scene from the short that we're animating called Snow Bear. And it's been a little while since I've animated on it, and I just want to get my feet wet by animating some personality stuff. And so, excuse me. And so I'm animating this shot of our polar bear friend from Snow Bear, kind of bounding into this shot and playing in the snow. A lot like what I'm thinking in my head is I'm thinking of, like, you know how dogs kind of bound out into the first snow, and you can just see the joy in their faces. And so that's what I'm doing, and I'm going to have him kind of rolling around and coming up with snow on his head and just having some fun. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to do it straight ahead, and I'll explain all that. But first I want to, as usual, I've got Dustin here answering questions. Say hi, Dustin.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
And then we've got my business partner Nick Birch in Sarasota, and he's going to be on the typewriter sending out links to things and whatever comes up during our discussions. And as always, as I'm animating, you guys can ask me questions, and we'll have a good old time. So first off, before we get started, let me show you what I've done so far. I've kind of taken it through him bounding. He bounds around a couple of times, stops a couple times, and now I'm going to have him roll backwards in the snow, and he's going to actually do a full backwards somersault, roll through the snow and land on his belly, and then he's going to plow through the snow and come up with a big pile of snow on his head. I'm not sure we'll get all that done today, but you'll see. And you'll see how far I've taken it. I've actually taken it to where he starts to roll back, but we haven't taken him all the way over. And I'm going to just go ahead and play it for you. And like I said, all of this animation, this has been done straight ahead. Now there's basically two types of animation when we animate, at least when we did it at Disney. There's straight ahead animation like you see here, and a lot of the times that's for fast action. And then there's also pose to pose, which is more subtle acting, where the acting might be, the movement might be contained within a pose. Where we might find 2 or 3 main poses within a scene, and then there's a little bit of movement within those poses. So that's pose-to-pose acting. But this is straight ahead. And so in straight ahead, like I said, it's usually lots of action, like him bounding in, and I just do one drawing, and then the next drawing, and then the next drawing, and just work it out as I go. One of the things on this shot is I broke my number one cardinal rule. And I don't recommend, if you're a young animator out there, don't do what I did. And that is, I did not thumbnail this. I had it all in my head, what I wanted to do with it. And normally I would still thumbnail it out and figure out all the movement. And for those of you that don't know, thumbnailing is doing just that. You kind of create a little roadmap of poses and animation, just done in little miniature drawings, thumbnail size. And just so you can work it out. That way, when you actually when it comes time to animate, you've already got all of your work figured out, and you can just work straight ahead. With this one, I kind of had the movement in my head already. I knew where I wanted to go with it. I've got his body kind of in my head, and so I just kind of dove in. And so that's what I've got here. One of the things I think I'm going to have some difficulty with, and I wish I would have thumbnailed it out, but we'll work it out together, is this rolling backwards. We're going to get some really funky angles on his body, and I've got to figure that out. So we'll have some fun with that. But let's just go ahead and you can see I've got it all kind of timed out already. This is Like I said, straight ahead. Most of it is on twos, meaning each drawing is held for 2 frames. And when it's all finished, it's all going to be on ones. It's going to be a different drawing for every frame. That means 24 frames per second. Right now we have 24 frames going through the camera. So let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead, Dustin.
Will Snow Bear be a TV short or a theatrical short?
Snow Bear is just our own personal short right now, and we'll see where it goes. This is just something we're doing for ourselves. To be honest with you, one of the things we want to do with it is we want to turn it into a course, so that by the time when it's done, we'll have not just an animated short, and it'll be full color and full, all the backgrounds and everything. But there's just a handful of us that are doing it ourselves, so it's going to take about a year. But when it's done, we're going to record the entire process, and I'm going to take you guys through as we're making it. We'll do live feeds, we'll do all kinds of stuff, so you guys can see the process over the next year. But also, when it's done, we'll take everything that we've recorded, and we're going to turn it into a course that you can get on my website, Creature Art Teacher, and it's going to be a course on how to create your own short. So we're going to be talking, from the very beginning on writing and how to keep your short story simple and clear and entertaining. We're going to take it through storyboarding. We're going to take it through initial layout, animation, character design, all of that. Background painting. We're going to do all of it. It's all going to be done in TV Paint, which is the software that I'm using now. It's going to be cool. I think you guys will enjoy it. When it's done, you won't necessarily have to be working in TV Paint in order to understand the course, but that's just, for us, that's the software that we're using now. So you can see what I'm doing right now is I'm scrubbing through back and forth on the timeline to get the action of him rolling back. And you can see I keep the drawings fairly loose, but I want to keep them clear too, because I want to make sure that I'm clear on what's happening with the body, the volumes, the squash, the stretch, all of that stuff. And what I've done here too is I've kind of pulled all the drawings down here on the bottom that you can see. Let me widen this out a little bit. Each one of these drawings is held for 1 frame. I'll go back in and retime them for 2s later on, but it's just easier for me to scrub back and forth. So here he is. He looks back, does a little anticipation, and then rolls back. But I'm going to have him continue to roll right on through. So let's go ahead and do that now. Go ahead, Dustin. Do you have anything?
What's your preferred way of animating? Straight ahead, pose to pose, or a good mix of both?
It really depends on the action. That's why I was talking about earlier. Straight ahead animation works great for lots of action. Pose to pose works great for more subtle acting scenes. So it really depends on what the scene calls for. And so that's what I do. And I want to give a shout out to, I know Vedanta is watching. So hi, Vedanta. And so I hope you enjoy this. I know you got a bunch of snow up there in Virginia, so I'm channeling all your snow and putting it into the scene right now. All right, so let's get him rolling back. So I've got this momentum of him rolling, so I want to make sure that momentum continues back. And see those legs? I want to throw those legs up into the air. Right here. And you'll see that I'll keep it really loose when I first sketch it in, because what I'm trying to do is find those shapes, and then I'll define them a little better. There's his tail coming up off the ground. What do you got, Dustin? You have anything? Because I know people are asking questions.
How would you propose making a hand-drawn movie without Hollywood approval?
Get lots of money. It still costs a lot of money, so it's hard to do a hand-drawn movie without anyone helping you. You need money to do it. You also need distribution. You need someone that's going to distribute your film. Yeah, there's a lot that you need. So here,
Do you animate at 24 frames per second at the start? Lately, I've been animating at 8 frames per second just to hammer out timing, then moving to 24 frames per second for fluid movement.
Well, I think you might be confusing the number of drawings per second as opposed to the frames per second. When I animate, I'm always animating at 24 frames per second, but I might hold certain drawings for 6 or 7 or 8 frames before I figure out all the fluid movement. For instance, and here you can see, if you look at the timeline, I've got several drawings that are held because I want the action to be a little bit slower. Now the frame rate is still 24 frames per second going through the camera, but for like this pose, for instance, I've held it for 11 frames, which is a mistake. That should be 12. There we go. So I've held it for 12 frames. And the reason I hold it for 12 instead of 11 is I want to be able to break it down to even numbers. It just makes it easier. So the answer is yes, I do what you're talking about, but the question was a little bit off. It's always 24 frames per second, but sometimes you're holding drawings longer. This here, I wonder if I need to bring him up. Well, let's just try it. I'm going to bring his head down just a little bit. And you'll see what I do here is I'm just going to keep a simple shape, just like a cone shape.
Are bears your favorite animals?
You know, I like bears. I like big cats, as a lot of you know. I had someone unsubscribe to me because they said all you draw is bears and big cats, and so they unsubscribed. Sorry, that's
Really?
what I like.
That's the reason?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny.
Wow.
But yeah, I love bears and I love big cats. I love all animals really, but lately I've just gotten into this kick of, drawing cats, and like in the last couple of years, drawing cats and bigger animals. You'll notice bears too, because they walk on their heel. When they get their feet up in the air like this, kind of looks like human legs, doesn't it? So now that I've roughed it in, now I want to kind of tie it down just a little bit. Oh, there's the cops.
Uh-oh.
You can hear the cops out there. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not.
I didn't do anything. I'm innocent.
So here's the tail. I'm going to have some snow, kind of chunks of snow flying up in the air from his feet, rolling back.
By the way, if everyone wants to be notified when we go live, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon below the video. That'll let you know when the next time we go live.
Excellent. Thanks, Dustin. Was that a Nick reminder?
Yep.
Thank you, Nick. All right, so now we're getting a nice view of his butt here.
Do you know software like yours but for Windows? TV Paint should be a PC.
Yeah, I think it works for both.
PC, yeah.
Okay, so there's another drawing done. So you'll see he's going to roll back. He's rolling back. Roll in the hay. Here we go. Could anyone name that movie that I just referenced? You should be able to.
What was it again?
Roll in the hay. All right, so I'm going to get his butt up in the air.
I don't know that one.
Young Frankenstein, man.
Oh, well, it was a lady saying that.
Okay, so there's the tail. If that's where this tail is, see, I want to make sure I'm getting the volumes right. So I'm drawing very simple shapes right now.
And they confirmed that TV Paint is available for Windows, Mac, and they recently released an Android version.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty cool. I just saw that recently. I'm going to start turning his head just a little bit. Keeping it simple. So So there's those feet. You know how as a kid you just kind of roll over backwards? That's, or maybe some of you can still do it. If I do it, I'll break in half. Okay, so here feet might be getting a little bit long, but I'm for animation's sake, I'm gonna keep them that way.
Any advice for lack of inspiration?
Yeah, I get that. That's one of the most common questions I get. Actually, I'm going to pull that in just a little bit. You know, there are times where I'm not inspired, and I know it's tough sometimes. And really, the only way to get through that is just to push through, and just draw. And eventually, you'll break through and find something that does inspire you. You know, what are the things that normally inspire you, and just get in there and start drawing, whatever that might be. There we go. And there's a butt. And it'll break through. You'll break through, I promise you. I'm getting a little bit too much line work in here. I want to get this a little cleaned up. Butt. There we go.
I want to know if I should get copyright before I upload images of characters I've drawn myself online.
I'm not sure I know what you mean. Are you talking about characters of your own, and before you put them online? You know what? I think people worry too much about copyright. My personal opinion. So don't. This is up to you. No one's out there waiting to steal your stuff. Okay, just realize that. No one's out there saying, "Hey, I'm going to steal that." And so I think people get a little too paranoid about their copyright. There are people that do it occasionally. I have people that take my stuff every once in a while, but to me, it's not a big deal. And it's already, you know, I sign everything. Everybody knows it's mine. No one is, you know, making movies with my stuff or anything like that. So I'm not worried about it. So it's really up to you. If you feel like you need to get a copyright, then get a copyright. But you know, for me personally, it's not something that I worry about. Plus, I'm you know, we're so prolific. We do enough stuff that to copyright everything all the time would just be a pain in the butt. But, all right, so there's the next drawing.
Do you use a custom brush for TV paint? If so, would you offer it on your site one day?
No, I'm not using a custom brush. This brush that I'm using right now is just their number 2 pencil. I like the way it looks. I like, you know, when I animate, I like animating in pencil. And so that's what this is. Let's bring him around a little bit.
You're flipping through the frames without onion skin, as if you're drawing on paper. Is it to see current drawing shapes better, or just a habit?
Just to have, I'm used to drawing on paper. That's where I got my start. So I don't rely on seeing through the onion skin. I rely on seeing the movement, and that because I used to flip paper back and forth, and that's how I did it for 20 some odd years. And so for me, I keep the onion skin on. You can see I have it on very, very faintly right there. It's very faint, just to see where that last drawing was. But you'll see I'm flipping back and forth constantly to see the movement. And I forgot all the little chunks of snow. So for me, it's all about seeing the movement and not seeing not worrying about animating lines. I want to see shapes. And the only way to do that is to flip. All right, so now we're going to start getting a little funky. I'll put the feet out, full feet out there. I'm not sure where to go with this.
Can you tell us the settings you use for the brush and TV paint? Mine don't look that great. It is a special brush.
Okay, this is just like I said. This is a number 2 brush. It's right over here. You can see there's these brushes up here, and I believe it's this one. If I hold it over, it should. Yeah, it's this one. 2B. It's a 2B pencil. That's what I'm drawing with. And there's no special setting for it. I'm just using the setting that it's already set at.
Does trial and error help you improve?
Yes. You know, if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. So yes, trial and error always will help you improve. So here, now that we're starting to get into a funky pose, I need to go back to my anatomy. So I know there's a pelvis right here. So his hip is going to be here, which is going to come down to his leg.
When I try to translate my animations from sketch to having proper lines, it loses its flow. How can I stop that?
Well, I think the problem that you're having is that you're worrying about line and not shape. If you start thinking about shape, if you're animating shape, then you'll keep your fluidity. You got to animate shape and not lines. That's the key. Right now, I'm trying to think about shape.
What's the current canvas size?
Oh, it's 1080. So it's 1920 by 1080 pixels. Okay, so now I'm getting down to his shoulder blades. And here. And the good thing about something like this is I don't have to labor on it too long, because I know I'm going to move right through this pose really fast. I'm going to fake this a little bit.
How do you construct the bodies for characters you want to animate? Do you build them from basic shapes like circles, etc., or do you just go directly from the anatomy?
No, I for animation, I think of basic shapes. So like with this bear, I think of the bear as a circle, and he's got a very fluid neck. You know, he's a polar bear, so they have long necks. And I break it up into 3 shapes, or not 3, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different quadrants. So there's the head, there's a neck right here. Let's just go ahead and put his head in here. Like that. So there's the head, neck, shoulders, and these are basic shapes right here. Body, and all of the body is a basic shape if you look at it this way. And then also think about the hips. Excuse me.
How long has it
Hold on 1 second, I'm still drawing. That's okay. And then right here is so there's this section, there's the hips, that's where the femur connects. So that's how I think of his shape. So you've got the pelvis and legs, the trunk of the body, shoulders and front arms, neck and head, and then I find the fluidity between them. Go ahead, Dustin, sorry.
All right. How long has it taken you to draw everything in this animation so far?
It's taken me, this is my 3rd day. So, but I didn't work on it full time the other 2 days. So this is basically 2 days worth of work. And I think it's, what is it? Right now, it says 88 drawings that we've done so far. So I want to turn his head a little bit more. I'm just going to let it kind of just disappear in here.
Any advice to keep my animation from looking so robotic? I'm kind of struggling here.
Well, probably the reason why you're probably hitting robotic animation is because you're thinking of it pose to pose rather than through a fluid movement. That's usually how people will hit their animation feeling kind of jerky. So if let me come back to let me scroll back here. For instance, through this section right in here, as I went straight ahead, I wasn't thinking pose to pose. I was thinking straight ahead. So what you'll see is I was thinking fluid movement. I was thinking about him leading with his head and the body following. I was thinking about stretch and squash. So there's our stretch. Right back to our fundamentals. Stretch up into a little squash in the butt, but stretching in the front. And then stretch and squash, stretch, and squash. So it's all about look how pushed and stretched that drawing is. You get really stretched and then pop, and then everything can squash. So I think about animation fundamentals. I think about fluidity of movement, and that's where you'll keep from your animation getting robotic on you. And if you are animating pose to pose, which is fine because I still do the same thing, you have to anticipate that when you're going pose to pose, you have to anticipate that you need to keep that fluidity. So you're kind of having to do a couple of different things at once in your head.
How do you deal with animating very complex designs? And what was the hardest thing you had to animate?
Well, probably the most complex character, or seemingly complex character I ever animated, was the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. But you break it down. You break down even complex designs have basic shapes to start with. And so that's what I do. I break it down into basic shapes, and then I build the details onto the shapes. And so that's the key to it. If you get caught up in the minutia of a complex design, then you're sunk right off the bat. You have to start from the broad. You got to start basic shapes and then work towards the detail.
How often do you delete frames for timing's sake?
It just depends. That depends. It just depends on what's happening with the animation, if it's working or not. I'll do whatever it takes for the timing to work. Sometimes I'll delete frames. Sometimes I'll add frames. It just depends on what the animation calls for. So here he's rolling over. Let's get to that next drawing. This is going to be a hard one. So at some point I'm just going to have to flip him over and fake it. His head's going to have to pop out. So I'm going to cover up his head. Follow that tail and watch. I'm following arcs. If you watch that tail come up, that tail follows an arc. Comes up, so I'm going to want that tail right here to follow that same arc.
Could you consider doing an episode of Aaron's art tips dedicated to After Effects on illustrations like gradients, glow, particles, and ambience?
Sure, I can do that. Yeah, because I do all of that in a lot of my illustrations. So I definitely can do that. Okay, so when I'm thinking about foreshortening, I'm thinking, this is a difficult angle, drawing this bear upside down and drawing his butt up in the air and his legs going away. So when I get to that point, it's hard for anybody to draw that. So then what do? I break it down to shapes. I think of that leg as like a series of tubes, right? So here's the foot. There's a tube that makes up the calf. There's a tube coming up to the knee. There's a tube that kind of makes the thigh. I want to find that pelvis. Here I kind of sketched in very quickly that pelvis, where the pelvis would be. So I want to animate that shape going back. So there's the pelvis there. And right at this corner, that's the hip, and that's going to lead into the thigh. So that's how I break it down. I find it, and I think in those kind of analytical terms.
Who will colorize this animation into environment, or is it going to be black and white?
We will color it. We're going to do it. And there we go. Now you'll see, watch, I'm going to fake. Here's his shoulders coming up. And his neck is going to be right under here. I'm going to fake his whole elbow. I'm going to fake it all out. So I'm going to flop it. As he comes over, this will all flop, but you won't even notice. And you'll start to see that other arm coming out over here.
Do you have any tips for artists that have confidence issues with their art?
You know what? Confidence is built through practice. You have to just continue to work and don't worry about what other people think. Don't compare yourself, although you should be learning from other people. Look at people that you admire and see what it is that they do that makes their work so great. But don't get hung up on being as good as them, because chances are those people have been at it for a lot longer. And so, just get out there and do it, and don't get hung up on comparing yourself, because that's what a lot of people do. And it's a clincher. I mean, it'll freeze you up. All right, so here we go. It's actually kind of fun. He's growing a little bit, I think. I think that is a little too big. So I'm going to come in and shrink that down a little bit. I have a little bit of, my volumes tend to grow. I shrink it up just a little bit more. As I animate, I'm going to go back one more and shrink that one up just a hair.
Would you consider to do an animation using Toon Boom instead of TV Paint?
No, Toon Boom is great software, but I don't use it. I use TV Paint. It's just what I use. I've always loved TV Paint. I've never had a need for Toon Boom. So here he is, flopping over like so. Let's get some of that snow in there. I got to get some of that, and I'll just let kind of fizzle out.
And I think the Toon Boom question was more of like, would you do an instruction video on Toon Boom?
Oh, I don't have that software. I've never used it, so no, I won't be doing that. But most of my tutorials are not, except for the Photoshop course that I just created, painting in Photoshop. Most of my courses are not software dependent. They're more like my animation course. You could follow along on paper if you want, because it's really about principles. My character design course, it's about just that. It's about design. It's not about doing character design in Photoshop, because that's what I do it in the course. It's about design itself, so you could actually follow along. So when I do animation, it's not really software dependent. The stuff that you see me doing here is, this is stuff that I could do on paper. So here he is. He's rolling backwards. I think spatially. This is how you figure out your shapes. Think spatially. And let's go to that next.
Sorry if you already answered this, but I just came in 2 minutes ago.
Sure.
Is this a random animation, or is this for the Snow Bear animation you've been working on?
This is for Snow Bear that I've been working on. And let's get that foot out there. Actually, I'm going to bring that down just a little bit more. This is a personality test that I'm working on. Just trying to get some fun out of Snow Bear. So here I've got his body coming down. Up in here, I'm going to have the transition just start. Now, see how the leg through here overlaps, the leg overlaps. Here I got to make the transition to the belly overlapping.
So as a beginner, do you recommend using tools like transformation or lasso to adjust volume, or erase and redraw?
You know what? It depends. Um, I a lot of times the drawing is okay. It's, for me, like you just saw, but the volume can be off because I tend to draw too big sometimes, and so I'll just resize. But a lot of times too, I'll just redraw too. You know, sometimes it's better just to redraw.
And if you're painting from imagination, how do you know all the values are right?
It's well, it's through experience. You know, if you're painting and you're in, you know, if the values look right, then they are right. If they look wrong, then they probably are wrong. And so it's a matter of, you know, looking to nature, looking, you know, drawing from life to get that experience to see whether or not you're doing it right or wrong. So here is where I'm kind of flopping that body over. Here his neck is getting pushed under.
How do you keep yourself from getting bored of a longer project like this?
Oh, you know what? I never get bored. It's because I love it. I love animating. So yeah, no, I don't get bored with it because I get excited about where it's going to go. See, like that foot, right? I just messed up the drawing on that foot. So I want to bring this leg. I was trying to foreshorten the leg a little too much, I think. I need to bring that foot out. Go a little smaller with it. There we go. That feels better. You can feel it. He's going to flop right down.
Because of your huge followers, do you get any surprise visitors to your house? And if you get any, how do you deal with them?
No, I don't. I keep my address secret.
It's a secret.
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't get too many surprise visitors. I'll run into people who recognize me here and there, but other than that, it's I try to keep fairly private when it comes to that. My home is my home. All right, so it's flopping over. So now what I'll do, because these are all meant to be on twos, I'll go through and just put everything on twos real quick. And we'll just have a little look to see if it's flopping over. Because I might add some in-betweens where he's at the top of the turnover to give it a little, you know, that kind of timing. But let's just see how it plays. I'm going to highlight just a little section right here. Just see how it plays up to that point. Yeah, so the timing so far feels pretty good.
If invited, would you go? I just lost the question. There it is. If invited, would you go to animation panels at cons?
Sure. Absolutely. We've been doing a little bit more, you know, as far as that kind of stuff goes. We just finished up at CTNX, which is the Animation Expo out in Burbank, California. So we're definitely doing more and more of that stuff. We're doing more talks at those types of venues and events. And so, yeah, I would definitely do that. So here, you know, trying to figure out those volumes, trying to figure out how those shapes turn in space. When you figure that out, you can end up with very dimensional animation. It starts to feel, you know, somewhat 3D. So he's rolling over pretty good. What I might want to do is see, I want to check something out in here as he rolls back right through here. Let's expose that a little bit longer. And that a little bit longer there, like twice as long. You might not be able to get a sense of the timing because I don't have enough drawings to follow through. Yeah, see how I'm slowing it down at the top? And I'm going to have them land a little harder.
Is TV Paint
Yeah.
a subscription type program or is it a one-time buy?
It's a one-time buy. That's where, like, I think Toon Boom is a subscription, whereas TV Paint is a little bit more expensive up front, but it's a one-time buy and you get it. And you can update it as they come up with,
And how much is TV Paint currently?
I don't know. You'll have to look that up. Sorry. Okay, so I've added a little bit more time on that rollback. So I think that's going to feel good. I added just a little bit more time, so it'll give him a little more weight, and then he'll flop over.
Are you thinking of doing a tour in cold Canada?
Canada, it's a cold, hostile wasteland.
It's a frozen hostile wasteland.
There's no plans right now, but you know, Canada is always open as far as you know, going there. All right, so I'm going to pull this back just a little bit so I can flop back and forth.
Do you shade parts of the limbs to differentiate the overlapping parts of the body?
Yeah, it just, you know, I shade them just because it adds a little bit of interest and I can see them a little bit. You know, you notice I'm not consistent with all the shading, but yeah, I shade them in just to add a little bit of interest in the drawing. As you can see, if I play it, it just adds a little bit more interest in those. A couple of the drawings I didn't shade them in, but for me it just makes it a little more interesting. So it's coming along. We're getting there. We're getting some nice personality. I'm kind of happy with it. I just want him really kind of fun and goofy. That's why I'm having him roll over and flop over backwards. I want him to feel goofy and just a lot of fun. And like I said, he'll plow through the snow and come up with a pile of snow on his head, shake it off, and then he'll run out of the scene. So we're getting there. I'll sit here and I'll look at it for quite a while when, you know, once I get it all animated, to figure out timing and I'll adjust, you know, lots of minutia. Okay, so here we go. From a timing standpoint, whoops! Hey, there's Trump with little hands.
Do you have the whole scene planned out, or do you build as you go?
Normally, I'll plan it all out through thumbnailing. I'll plan the whole shot. This time, I didn't thumbnail. That's what I was saying in the beginning. You probably weren't there in the beginning. But I didn't thumbnail it because I kind of had it all in my head. And I just kind of dove in. So, yeah, there's that. So here, I'm going to have him... Now I want to kind of reverse the you know, see how if you look in here, you know, everything's kind of curved that way. Well, what I want to do is I want to start to reverse that as he flops down to give it a little more impact. So here I'm starting that, rather than having that curve, I'm going to put a curve like that. You were laughing, Dustin?
Yes. Yep, the whole thing with Trump with little hands kind of blew up a little bit. And somebody wrote, you should animate Trump with little hands.
Yeah. Last time I did any kind of Trump art, I lost a lot of followers. I lost the conservative followers in my group.
How do you animate talking by knowing what the character has to say?
Say that one more time. How do I animate dialogue?
Animate talking by knowing what the character has to say.
Well, the dialogue, I'm not quite sure I understand the question, but as far as when it comes time to animate dialogue, yeah. It's always, the dialogue is always recorded first. So we already know what the characters are saying, and we listen to it. So we can hear it, we can picture the acting in our heads, and then we'll also know what frame each sound falls on because it's already recorded. And so then it's just a matter of executing it.
Have you ever animated that tiger caricature of you on your YouTube banner?
Oh no, I haven't animated that. I got so real quick to explain what I'm doing right now. I just drew that leg, but it needed to be foreshortened a little bit more. So I'm trying to foreshorten it because I want, if you follow the arc of this foot coming down, the foot should be right in here. There we go. Following that arc coming down like so. If you can get nice fluid arcs in your animation, you're halfway there. Slow ins, slow outs, arcs. Those are the key to pleasing animation. Slow ins, slow outs, and good arcs. It gives everything fluidity.
What's your opinion on animation today?
That's a broad question. What's my opinion on animation today? My opinion on animation today is I'm doing it. I think I feel sad that there's not more 2D being done on a theatrical level, and that's a question that always comes up. But I think it's not dead by any means. So what I'm doing right now is I'm bringing I'm having him roll right over, bringing his head up. See how this is what I was talking about earlier about faking it. So there's the shoulders.
What's the next upcoming course going to be?
We've got a course coming up on storyboarding, and it's going to be by an artist named Lyndon Ruddy, and who did story with us on The Legend of Tembo when we were making that movie. He's brilliant. He's one of the best story artists I know. And so we went to Lyndon and asked him if he would do a story course for us. And so he is. And so that's the next course. We're going to be making Snow Bear throughout the year. While we're making Snow Bear, I'm going to try to. I know Nick wants me to focus on Snow Bear, and I'm going to. Don't worry, Nick. But I'd like to get a couple of animal courses in. I've got a lot of requests on, wolves, dogs, foxes, coyotes, that sort of thing. So I want to get a course done for that. And there's a lot. Traditional media courses that we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing some painting courses. We've got a lot coming up. The 2018 is going to be really big for Creature Art Teacher. Okay, so I've kind of been noodling this drawing. So here the head's starting to come up out of the snow. I'm trying to get some volume. And here, this is what I was talking about. Here's the butt, the pelvis, back legs, trunk of the body, shoulders and arms, neck and head. And when you can think about those parts in that way, you can overlap them. And this one here, I'm going to just start to indicate the ear coming up, just so it doesn't just pop up. There.
Hey, what does slow in and slow out in animation mean?
Slow in and slow out. So a slow in, you're slowing into a pose, and then if you're going to go into an action, you're going to slow out of a pose. And so what that means is, if I just move my hand, boom, to there, there's no really slow in or slow out. But if I go, you'll see it gradually slows down and gradually gets faster. Those are slow ins and slow outs, and that's what adds life and fluidity to animation. You don't just hit a pose and stop dead. You ease into the pose, and then you slow out of the pose, and then it just gives you much more fluidity in your action. For instance, let me see, because this is fairly broad. But here, I have him kind of slow into that. You see he kind of slows into it, and then I don't slow out of it too much because I want him to really have momentum rolling back. But the same here too. So here, he slows into this pose. He doesn't just hit it. He settles into it, slows into it. Like so. Okay? So that's a slow in and a slow out.
What are your thoughts on Dear Basketball by Glenn Keane and Kobe?
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. I love Glenn's style. I love I love everything Glenn does. So I'm a little bit biased. I'm gonna have him just flop. I'm biased. So I love the fact that they did almost all of it on 4s and 6s and 8s, and meaning, that's how long some of the drawings were held for, the number of frames. And I'm going to get that body to squash. It's like wet cement. I want it to feel like a bag of wet cement. Then calf, and then foot. See that? So I really loved it. Oh, what did I do here? Wait, that's what I want right there. I hit the button wrong.
Have you seen any of the animations and shorts from Blizzard Entertainment?
I have. And what those guys do is fantastic.
I think my personal favorite one is with Bastion, the robot in the woods.
Yeah, I like that too. That was for the video game, right?
Yeah. In fact, majority of the short stories they've been doing on Blizzard has been mainly for the game Overwatch.
Overwatch.
Yeah. In fact, they did one. I think it was maybe a month now.
Uh-huh.
It was a couple weeks ago. They did one for Overwatch again, and it was for my favorite character, Reinhardt, who's is huge. He has this big armor, giant hammer, and he uses a giant shield. But the short is kind of a story about his past.
Gotcha.
And what led him to being where he is now.
I see.
And it's definitely fantastic.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
See, so here I have him contacting the ground, and I'm going to have one more squash, like he's going to settle in. And here I'm having his head slowly come up out of the snow. I think he's a little bit big again. So here I'm going to shrink him.
When you merge two animals to create a new creature, how do you decide how many traits of each animal you're going to put in the new creature?
That's up to you. You can do whatever you want. That's too broad of a question, to be honest with you. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You're the maker. So it's up to you to decide, and you can have a ball with it. I've done lots of different things like that, and it's really just do what you feel is right, because it's a lot of fun.
Sorry if you answered this earlier.
Okay.
But does it excite you knowing people might try to redraw or animate some of your stuff for practice?
Sure. I find that to be an honor. Absolutely. So here, I want to make sure I get there, his neck coming around, all the different parts of his body.
Have you seen the traditionally animated game Cuphead? And would you ever animate for a video game?
I have seen Cuphead, and I think it's cool. And no, I probably wouldn't animate for a video game. Not because I don't like them. It's just not my cup of tea. I did at one time. I animated when Disney was doing their animated, like with Lion King and Aladdin came out. I guess it was Sega. They came out with video games for those movies back in the 90s. I did some of the animation for those. We did them at the studio. So I did I did animation of adult Simba actually swinging on the vines through the trees or through branches, it was really weird because we had to really break the reality of what lions can do for the game. So here I've got him flopping over. So I'm going to do one more squash. One more squash drawing. Let's see.
What's your advice on keeping a consistent art style for a project? The other animator working with me is using a stylized style that I find hard to copy.
Well, every movie is different that I've ever worked on. And so it was up to us to figure it out and, learn it. And if it's difficult, that just means you just got to work a little bit harder. Now, if the other artist is doing something that's not the style, then that's a different story. Then that artist has to, they have to come up and meet you halfway. But if that's the style and you're having difficulty with it, you just have to buckle down and work a little bit harder. And then eventually you'll get there. Okay, so there's this squash. I got a little bag of wet cement. It might be a little soft the way he lands. And then I'm going to have his settle pose. I'm going to do one more pose.
Do you always do Disney style animation, or do you always, or can you also do limited animation, like that of Looney Tunes style?
I've done Roger Rabbit. I did Roger Rabbit back in the day. I just prefer Disney style because that's what I did for years and years, and I like doing full animation like that. Here we go. So I'm getting his face flopping his head out. See there? You can get away with that.
Have you ever considered streaming on Twitch TV? The creative community there is fantastic.
Yes.
You enjoy it.
Yes, and my son is super glad that you asked that question.
I am.
Dustin's been trying to get me to do that for a long time, and yeah, we want to do it. We just haven't had the time. It's hard enough. We've got between Facebook and YouTube. That's twice a week that we're streaming already, and that's hard to keep up with on its own, considering all the other stuff that we try to get done. So here's this flop. I'm going to look at the timing on that real quick. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him settle. That's the impact right there. Yeah, see, it's a little soft. So what I'll do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put that down onto one frame.
Say any specific.
I might even put that on one frame. Go ahead.
Any specific reason as to why you're hitting two squash poses?
Two squashed poses. I'm not sure I know what you mean by two squashed poses. Yeah, that's better. So he's going to hit and then he's going to settle. He'll recover from the impact. So you see how he flops over kind of slow and then he hits kind of quickly. Boom. Okay, so that's good. I'm happy with that. So I'm not quite sure where you're talking about two squash poses. He hits the ground here, and he hits there, but he's continued. The action is pulling him through, and then he's going to slow, and then boom, boom, boom. That's where we get the impact. And then here, this is going to be the settle pose. So here I'm going to have his butt up in the air.
Can you animate this part in Photoshop using timeline, or is it too complex for Photoshop?
It's for me. It's too complex for. I've tried animating in Photoshop, and Photoshop isn't animation software. It's not meant for animation, so I don't use it for that. Um, it's I just find it difficult. TV Paint, I'm a big advocate in using the proper tool for the proper job. So, TV Paint is great animation software, and that's what it's meant for. So that's what I use it for. And I use Photoshop for illustration.
Do you ever use wipes in your animation?
All the time. It just depends on the. Well, that looks kind of foul. He's settling into that pose. I do wipes for really broad animation. So the head flopping up, and he's going to come up like so.
Have you ever tried background animation?
Background animation or background paintings? I'm not sure I know what you mean by background animation. When I was first starting out, I did scenes that were, they were what they would call B or C scenes, which were, easier scenes to do. And they a lot of times involved background characters. So if that's what you mean, then yeah, I did that when I first started out. But I'm not sure I know, unless maybe you mean background painting. In which case I haven't done production background painting, but I'll be doing it for this.
And somebody's asking about the wipes and what the person meant by
a wipe. I'll show you. So a lot of times when you have animation, you want to move a character across really fast, but you don't have enough frames to do it, and you don't want it to strobe. You'll do what's called a wipe. And so, for instance, let me show you. Let me save this really quick. Let's do a new project. And I'm going to hit OK, new project. And so let's say we have a ball right here. And I want to, oops, sorry. And I want to move that ball to here. And let's see, I need to do it in just a few frames, like 4 frames. And I don't want it to strobe. But what I'll do is I'll do a slow out. So what I mean by a slow out is I'm going to slowly start to pull it out of that shape, out of that spot. And then I'm going to speed it up right here. And you'll see I'm starting to stretch it. So it's starting to move. And then I want to get it over here really fast. So I'll do what's called a wipe. And I will stretch it all the way across. It's wiping across the screen. And this is what they used to do in animation in the old days. They invented the wipes because they couldn't blur like in a regular 35 millimeter camera where something moves fast, it just blurs across the frame. So they invented wipes instead. And then so it gives me the ability to get the ball over here really quickly. Like so. And we'll do one more to really slow in to the pose. Okay? So now when I scroll back and forth, you can see it shoots. I'm going to turn the light table off. See, it shoots across really fast. So it gives you the illusion of it shooting really fast without having to do, without it strobing. If I had just done that wipe with just a regular ball shape, it would strobe. But instead, we get a nice fluid action. See how it settles in. So that's what a wipe is. hope I answered your question. Wipes are fun, especially with characters. So imagine, we just did that with the ball. Now imagine stretching a character's face across the screen. That's where it gets a lot of fun.
Is a wipe different from a smear?
No, they're basically the same. Wipes and smears are kind of the same. A smear is just basically stretching it a little bit, stretching it but it's stretching it in the same way that you would a wipe.
Oh, Nick wanted me to when you point out that you have a full video on wipes on your YouTube channel.
Oh, I do. I've completely forgot about that. Thank you, Nick. I have a full video on wipes on my YouTube channel. You got to search for it. I don't know where it is right now. It's in my library though.
And also, there were a couple of viewers in here that completely reminded me that there actually is a software, or not a software, but a website in which is called Restream, and you can actually stream through multiple through multiple sites all at once.
Oh, that's cool.
So technically speaking, if
so we could stream on Twitch.
You can stream on Twitch, on Facebook, and on YouTube all at the same time.
That's crazy talk.
I've done it.
Okay, so there he is. So here he is, kind of in the last pose that I want him to settle in. So we've succeeded in kind of rolling him all the way over. See the impact, and then he settles back up. And you can see I faked his head coming through. I made sure the body overlapped his head. It disappears. So once that head disappears, I can make it reappear anywhere I want. See? I completely broke his neck. There's no way he would survive that, but he does. These are some of the cheats you can get away with in animation. And you notice how his arm is turned one way, but as he rolls over, I just flip it over. Once again, cheating. Cheat, cheat, cheat. So now I'm going to add an in-between in here. Whoops. Yeah, I want that there. We're going to do this. There we go. So now I'm going to add an in-between in here. I'm going to have it settle. I'm going to have his butt kind of pop right up into that position, but not quite. I'm going to have it settle. And here I am using the onion skin to my advantage. The green is the drawing before, and the violet is the drawing after. So I know where it's going.
So what are some things that you absolutely can't cheat on for animation?
Well, you can't cheat emotion. You can't cheat acting. There's visual cheats you can do all over the place. But when it comes time to, and actually good action, you can't, like fluid, like this action here where I have him kind of rolling over, other than that head popping through, you can't cheat the rest of the body kind of rolling over. You got to figure out those volumes and that anatomy and move it through. You have to. But you just can't cheat good acting. And that's where a lot of people fall short, is on acting. I say this all the time, but animation is not the art of moving something. It's the art of bringing something to life. And so I'm going to bring his eyebrows up just a little higher and then have him settle.
Would you recommend any warm-up drawing exercises to start the day?
You know what? It's just as long as you're drawing. I never did warm-ups, so I just got in there and started drawing when I first started. So as long as you're drawing, you're warming up. To draw anything, sit down and draw your friends, do a caricature, draw your cat, draw your dog, draw whatever. Anything is a warm-up as long as you're drawing. There, have his eyes opening up. Boom, boom. See there? Boom. Pops right into the. Let's do one more. I want that to be 2. And then we'll extend that for about 12. That last pose. There. You're awfully quiet over there, son.
I'm just going through the list here. How bad was your first animation?
Really bad. All it did was move across the screen. And it's funny, because I had never animated anything to where I was able to shoot it. And it was a flour sack. You know, I was trying to bring a flour sack to life, that old exercise, where you try to give life to, you know, here's a flour sack right here. You know, it's a little sack of flour. And, you know, that's what it looks like normally. But if you want to make it, like, proud, then you give it a little proud pose, you know, things like that. I animated a little story of this flour sack, and it was terrible. I had no sense of timing. Everything was even, and it was just horrible. But it moved, and that's where I got hooked. I was able to move something across the screen, and I hadn't brought it to life. That came later, but man, I was really hooked at that point, and it was terrible.
Is it okay to just start painting and working on proportions, especially with digital painting, and then work on the line art? Or is it best to get the line art first?
You know, everybody works differently. Everybody works differently. There's guys that I know that just start painting in real big blocky colors, and they work towards, you know, the finished painting. For myself, personally, my whole style, the way I learned, was to start with a drawing. And then I use that drawing as my roadmap. So here I'm trying to bring those eyebrows up, and then they settle. See the eyebrows? Very subtle.
How do you get better acting in your animation?
You know, that comes with practice. You have to be, it's all about honesty. It's not about, you know, sit down and feel what's supposed to be coming across in the acting. Dig deep into your own heart and feel that emotion rather than trying to make it up. We all have had some kind of event in our life that will match whatever it is that you're trying to animate, whether it's sadness, happiness, anger, whatever. And that's where you need to tap into it. And remember too, once again, like I was saying earlier, animation is the art of bringing something to life, not the art of moving something. So sometimes in your acting, you don't want any movement. It's better played without movement and subtlety. And so that's, you know, you have to know where to do that. It's like playing music. Sometimes it's not the notes that you play, it's the notes that you don't play in order to get the notes that are played to stand out. And so that's what you want to do in your animation. Yeah, Dustin.
How old were you when you started animating?
I was 20 years old. And next month I'm going to be 50. So do the math. It's been a while. All right, so let's go ahead and play this.
Do you ever film your acting before you animate?
Whoops. Shoot. There we go. Yeah, I've filmed my acting as reference. There, see? You can feel that impact. So there's our. Now let's go in. I want to feel that movement rolling over. See, I want it slow and boom, and then hit and impact the ground. So that's why I squash him, and then he settles up into his final pose. You can see his eyes, like his head pops out. and I like to do the sound effects. That's nice and fun. And then what's going to happen is he's going to push his butt up into the air and he's going to plow through the snow, and it's going to all pile up on his head, and he'll lift his head up out of the snow, and he'll have a little pile of snow on his head. So
How did you learn to animate at college?
I didn't learn to animate in college. When I went to the Ringling College of Art and Design, and at the time, Ringling is known as, you know, an illustration but also an animation school now. But at the time when I went there, it was illustration, graphic design, fine art, interior design, but we didn't have animation. You got to remember, when I was in school, animation hadn't really made the comeback that it did in the 90s. I went to Ringling from 1986 to 1989, and so there we go. And so there wasn't really, other than Cal Arts and Sheridan College, in Canada, there wasn't really any place to learn animation because it was kind of a dying art at the time. Matter of fact, Disney almost, Michael Eisner, when he came in, he almost shut down the animation division. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in-betweens in here. We need 3 drawings through here to slow them down. So I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Do you have any planned travel to India?
Yes, we will go to. Oh, sorry, I didn't finish the other question real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's not your fault. And so I got an internship to go to Disney, and I thought I was going to become a background painter, but I got out to Disney in 1988, and it was during my career when I was in college. It was after my second year, before my third year, and I learned animation at Disney. Glenn Keane taught me animation. So here we go. I'm just kind of drawing through. Go ahead, Dustin. Oh yeah, India.
Yeah.
We do plan on going at some point. I've been to Delhi, and I've been up to Sikkim, up in the northeast part of India, up in Gangtok and Darjeeling and all that, up near the Himalayas. But we plan on, at some point hitting a few more places.
The ambiental music you put in your videos is from some internet page, or you create those melodies?
Yes, premiumbeats.com. If you go to premiumbeats.com, that's where I get all my music. It's really a great website. Now you got to pay for the music because it's you pay for it to be royalty free, but it's worth it. And I've been building up a library over the last 3 years. They're $49 a piece, and but the great thing is you can use, once you pay for it, you've got the license, and you can use it for everything.
And also, it's not just the full song. There's also short versions.
Yes.
There's like loops. There's all. It comes with like all these sorts of versions of the song.
Exactly.
Depending on which song it is. And it's actually there's no S in the end, so it's just premiumbeat.com.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Premium Beat. Excuse me.
Do you think Glenn Keane would animate live for YouTube too?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know. That's a Glenn question. I've seen him. He animates live, and when he does lectures, I know that.
Have you ever been to Yellowstone?
I've been to Yellowstone many, many times. It's one of my favorite places in the world to go. Yellowstone and Grand Teton in Jackson, Wyoming. Those are my favorite. I go there to paint, photograph. I've got lots and lots of photographs and paintings from Yellowstone. Okay, there's one. Now we're going to get another one in here. Yeah, go ahead, Dustin.
Where are you getting the audio for Snow Bear? Will you be doing the sound design?
We're not sure yet. I have someone that works at a pretty well-known um, post-production facility that we might be able to use. I'm not sure yet because we don't quite have the budget, and I don't want to say who it is until I know. But at least in the beginning, we'll be doing our own with prepackaged sound effects. One of the things we're doing on purpose is there's no dialogue, so it really is just going to be sound effects. So here I'm just trying to get there we go. Trying to get this body to turn over. We're slowly getting there. Watching animation is like watching paint dry, but it's fun.
Did you hear about the other 2D animators that worked for Disney are coming together to make a film to show Disney that 2D animation is still alive?
I've heard a little bit about that, but I don't know. I'm not sure who's doing it. And if they can do that, that's great. If they can find the money and the budget, that's awesome.
Have you ever experienced working overnights just to deliver deadlines, or
Oh yeah.
where you need to reach a certain quota and have to choose between quality over quantity?
We did that all the time at Disney. When we were on Aladdin, on Mulan, on Lion King, on Beauty and the Beast, on Pocahontas, on all of them. There comes a time where you're having to crank, and we'd come into work at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we'd work until 1 o'clock in the morning. Trying to get all that work out.
Where will Snow Bear be released? On YouTube?
We're not sure yet. I'm not sure. Nick might have a better idea, but I think we're just going to kind of play it by ear. I'm not sure where we're going to do it. We might do it at a festival, and it might premiere there, and then we'll put it on YouTube. We're not sure. First thing we need to do is we need to get it done. So that's my big goal. I'm not really worried about where I'm going to release it, how I'm going to release it. I just want to get it done. And then once it's done, then we can start talking about all that kind of stuff.
Where can you get sound effects again?
Well, sound effects, you can get sound effects from, there's any number of places that you can get them from. Premium Beat sells them, but it's not enough. I mean, there's prepackaged sound effects not cassette. What am I saying? CD sets that you can buy that are entire libraries of sound effects.
And cassettes. What was your mindset at?
Yeah, I know. Shows my age. Shows my age.
Oh yeah, Premium Beat does have a pretty decent amount, but
it's not great though.
Yeah.
Their music is much better.
Yeah.
All right, so have him flopping over. I'm really going through this really quickly.
What can you do in 2D animation that you can't in 3D?
You know what? For me, I think there's a freedom that I get drawing in 2D. You can cheat a lot easier, obviously, in 2D. I can cheat stuff. Let's go ahead and play the whole thing, see how it plays. Cheating. Cheating is probably the best answer. So this will all be on ones. Yeah, so that feels pretty good, that rollover. I'll sit here and watch it. Some of it's a little slow, but I'll probably speed a little bit of it up here and there. But I don't want to speed it up too fast, because then once I start speeding it up, he'll lose some of his weight. I want him to feel heavy and bulky. So, and I want a nice little, cute little pose there at the end where he's looking at the camera or looking off screen at the very end. Yeah. I'm happy with that impact. So that's a little squash. That's the other thing I want you guys to see when we start talking about the fundamentals of animation: squash, stretch, follow through, overlap, all of those things. You can do it with a ball, you can do it with a piece of fabric and all that, but it really applies to your character animation, and that's what I'm trying to show in here. I'm really applying all of those principles to this animation. We've got squash, we've got stretch, we've got overlap, we've got follow through, we've got all of that, and that's what gives your character or your animation life and believability. And but it just takes time. It takes time to kind of get those principles down in your head. Timing is a big thing to start understanding. That rollover might be a little bit slow still, so I'm going to play with that. But you guys get a sense of the action, and I've taken them through kind of that full bit. And the next thing that I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to have him plow through that snow and pile it up on his head. But I think I'm going to go ahead and finish up. Dustin, you got another question?
Yeah, have you heard about the new event on Instagram called Creature Annuary? It's like Inktober, but you draw a certain creature every day of January.
I have not. That sounds pretty cool, actually. I've not heard that. So I'm going to have to check that out, because you guys know I like to draw creatures. So anyway, here's the animation that I've been working on for the last couple days. I've still got a fair amount more to do, and I'll share it with you guys next week, because I'm hopefully by next Thursday it'll all be done. But I love animating for you guys, and this was my passion for 20 some odd years. It's been my passion for almost 30 years, actually. This is my 30th year that I've been animating, and I love doing it, and I love talking about it. I love especially 2D, for something that's kind of going away, and less people are learning it. So I like to demonstrate it. I like to show it. It's a lot of fun. But I'm going to go ahead and finish up today. Remember, I'm going to be here every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and then on Facebook every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to be getting more videos out. 2018, we're trying to get more content out to you guys. So I know this past year we were a little bit slow in getting videos out on YouTube, mainly because we did so much traveling. So we won't be doing as much traveling this year, so that we can focus on Snow Bear. So anyway, if you're interested in other lessons, animation lessons, drawing lessons, painting lessons, I've got all of that on my website. My website's creatureartteacher.com. Go on over there, and I've got tons of stuff, lots of stuff like this. And so if you're interested in animation, go out there and try some of the techniques that I showed you today. Go out and have some fun. Put some beauty back in the world, because that's what we're supposed to do as artists. Put some fun. Put something out there that's going to make people feel good, because we can change the world as artists, and I firmly believe that. So get out there, do something good, and until next week, have some fun drawing and painting and do all that stuff, and I will talk to you later. I'm going to stop streaming. There we go. So have a great week, you guys. Remember, Tuesday I'll be over on Facebook, and then I'll be right back here again on Thursday. So I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.